Arrasaldéon, buenas tardes, bienvenidos y bienvenidas a la rueda de prensa de otra película de la sección oficial de esta 69 edición del Festival de San Sebastián, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Los ojos de Tammy Faye. Para hablar de la película tenemos el placer de contar aquí con su director, Michael Showalter, y con su actriz protagonista y también productora de la película, Jessica Chastain. Bueno, antes de abrir el turno de preguntas, quizá estaría bien que nos contaran tanto Michael como Jessica cómo se embarcaron en este proyecto. Es un biopic sobre un personaje algo atípico, ¿no? ¿Y qué fue lo que más les interesó? Además, Jessica Chastain está implicada como productora y que nos cuenten un poquito cómo surge la película. No sé quién quiere empezar, sí.
For me, it was in 2012. I was on a press tour for Zero Dark 30, and I saw the documentary, and I was so blown away by this woman's compassion and love. And I realized I didn't really know the true story of Tammy, separate from the drama and what the media portrayed, their sensationalism. And I thought it was time to tell the true story of who she was to a new generation. So I bought the rights and I went out looking for partners to help develop the script. And Michael and I were working on something together, and I was so excited when he showed interest in coming aboard to direct. So that really had the project take off in a new way.
Yeah, I relished the opportunity to work with Jessica and to see her in this role. But also just as someone who grew up watching the Bakers on television and knowing their story, being an adolescent in the 1980s and this time period, wanting to go back into that world, it felt like it visually was a really interesting and amazing story to tell. And then obviously there were so many incredible themes in the journey of this character.
Muy bien. Tenemos ya preguntas, veo un montón de manos levantadas. Sí, aquí tenemos esta señorita que ha sido la primera en levantar la mano y intentaremos dar turno a todos. No, te decía allá atrás, perdona. Es que haya sido primero, lo siento.
Hi there. Congratulations, both. My question is for Jessica. I'd like to know how you worked on your accent and how did you work to integrate that into the songs, if it's you singing. I assume it's you singing, but yeah, great. So how do you integrate that into the songs?
I started listening, I had 7 years to prepare for this. I didn't know when we were going to make the film, but I knew at some point it was going to happen, so I better learn as much as I could about her. It really started to focus when I worked with the dialect coach Liz Himmelstein, because the Minnesota accent is very particular. And in addition to the accent, her voice is pitched much higher, like Betty Boop. So I needed to also figure that out. And then in terms of her singing, the one thing I discovered, which was phenomenal, is, she recorded over 20 records. And when she sings, she has quite this low, booming voice. And you can see on YouTube, like with The Sun Will Shine Again, she'll be singing in this really low voice. And then she'll, her voice will go up again when she starts talking. And I just thought that was an amazing thing, because there was something like she was really in her body when she was singing, and she, didn't really necessarily need a microphone. She needed to use her whole sound. But then when she was talking, she had this cute, folksy way of speaking, and that was kind of a way in also. But it was years of listening to her.
Sí, tenemos aquí otra. Sí, tú que. Y luego. Sí, él, sí.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Gracias por la película. Yo quería preguntar precisamente sobre las canciones. Yo no la había visto nunca cantar y ahora canta unas cuantas veces. Entonces, ¿cómo fue ese trabajo, ¿no? ¿Cómo fue las canciones? Y si le ha entrado igual, si le ha picado un poco el gusanillo para seguir probando en películas cantando. Gracias.
Well, it was never something I was very comfortable with. We did singing at college, and I just get very embarrassed very easily. And sometimes it's easier for me to play characters who are more reserved. And the way that Tammy sings, she really is yelling it out from the first note, and there's no really variation. So Dave Cobb helped me a lot with that, where we had pre-records, and on the first day, I thought, okay, I did an okay job, as I was drinking whiskey to like calm my nerves. And then on the second day, I came back and he said, I want to re-record everything we did, and I want to make the key higher. Because he said the way that Tammy sings, it's like she's reaching for something. You know, she's like almost yelling and screaming, and he didn't want it to feel easy or comfortable for me. So it actually was a way into the character also, that she was never sitting back. She was always pushing in terms of energy, in terms of like, she was like a theater kid. You know, there was something so big about her. And him forcing me to sing the songs at a higher key forced me to be more present and more energetically big. And I really credit to him in helping me find the songs, but also in helping build the character, because that's what I realized I had to bring into the acting. And I'm gonna I'm gonna play Tammy Wynette in a mini-series, so I'm starting to get comfortable. It's still embarrassing, but I'm easing my foot into it.
Sí, tenemos allí otra.
Hola, buenas. Enhorabuena por esta película. Es un papel fascinante el de esta mujer. Y mi pregunta va para Jessica. Leí hace poco de unas declaraciones que tú hiciste hace unos años atrás, cuando te tocó ser jurado de Cannes, que reprochabas la visión que se daba de la mujer en aquel momento en el panorama cinematográfico. Te quería preguntar por esa realidad, de esa mirada que ahora pues ha cambiado, o parece ser que ha cambiado. Te quería preguntar por eso, si crees que papeles como el de Tammy Faye son síntoma de que algo está cambiando en la industria del cine.
I think, yes, things are absolutely changing. We're also living in a time, especially in the United States, where we're re-examining women and how we've treated them in the media. If you look at the documentary coming out about Britney Spears, if you look at Monica Lewinsky, Marcia Cross in the O.J. Simpson trial, I, Tonya, there's many times we've realized that we have treated women unfairly because we focused on how, their physical appearance, their sexual desirability. We've made them into jokes or clowns. We never really focused on what they did or what they accomplished or what they said. We more focused on whether or not they were pleasing to the eye or pleasing to the ear. And I think absolutely we as a society are reevaluating that. I can tell you, I've been in the industry for exactly 10 years this year, which is shocking to me, 2011 to 2021. It's a huge difference when you look at Sundance, the Oscars, Cannes Film Festival, Venice Film Festival. A female director won the top prize in all of those in all those festivals or, awards. And that to me shows that now people are interested in allowing stories about women to be told. And that's a very exciting thing. I don't think we're there yet because we're still kind of congratulating ourselves for it. But I think when it becomes just second nature, it's really changed. But it's very exciting to see the difference between 2011 and 2021.
Tenemos aquí este caballero de aquí, sí.
Hola Jessica, enhorabuena por el papel. Bajo mi punto de vista es la mejor interpretación de tu carrera, pero quería que me valorases un poco, por ejemplo, el papel que tuviste en The Help o en Zero Dark Thirty, estas películas, Interstellar, The Martian. ¿Tú crees que realmente aquí has alcanzado el punto más alto a nivel de interpretación de tu carrera, por ejemplo, empezando a cantar, etcétera? ¿O hay algún papel de los pasados que realmente aún tengas como el mejor o el favorito o el que tengas más aprecio? Muchas gracias.
I mean, I'm always pushing myself, so I can't say that like, oh, I've done it. You know what I mean? I hope like I'm 80 years old and I'm still like, have I really like hit a moment of truth and authenticity? And so I'm constantly questioning myself and doubting myself. And especially with something like this, working with Michael was so helpful to me because I'm someone when you mention like Zero Dark 30, or, we look at Miss Sloane or Molly's Game, or a lot of the characters that I play that are quite intellectual and very dramatic. And it's very rare that I get to have a sense of play and a sense of fun. And Mike really inspired that in me, which was so important to Tammy Faye, because she was all, she threw herself out fully, 100%. So I think working with Mike and also his help in finding how to find the character was really very, very important to me in all the technical aspects of the singing, of the accent, of the voice, of the body, the sense of play, but also the pathos that she has. I absolutely felt like I had an incredible partner with Mike. And so thank you for saying that. And no, but I'm very proud of this film.
Tal vez Michael podría también contarnos cómo fue la experiencia de trabajar con Jessica, ¿no?
I mean, she knew the character, she knew the story, she knew what she wanted to do so well. And so on that level, and I said this, like, I can't even remember how long ago, Jessica set the bar for all of us in terms of how hard we were going to work, how much passion we were going to give to it, how much of ourselves we were going to give to it. She knows what she wants. She knows what she doesn't want, but she's also very directable in the best possible way. She's collaborative. She's open. I mean, I think what I would say about that is when she's really acting, and she, as all great actors are, they're open, and they're just giving their whole selves to their work. And sometimes they need someone to say, how'd that look? Like, is this okay? And it's like, yeah, just keep going. And so I saw a big part of how I felt my job or my role, amongst other things, but with Jessica, was to let her know that it was safe, that what she was doing was great, was special, and that I wanted her to just keep going and to keep following her instincts, because her instincts as to how she wanted to play the role were wonderful. And so I just wanted to let her fly, and that's what we did. Yeah.
Muy bien, sí, tenemos aquí a Conchita y... Sí, a ella. Sí.
Hola, Jessica. Quería preguntarte, bueno, felicidades por este papel explosivo, ya lo dicen en la película, que es dinamita el personaje. Quería preguntarte, ¿cómo ves este año el tener que pegarte, entre comillas, con los actores por el premio de interpretación, del que se está hablando de Jessica Chastain, Javier Bardem, desde el primer día? ¿Cómo ves eso de tener que pegarte con Javier Bardem o con cualquier otro actor para el premio de interpretación aquí?
I don't see any fighting with actors. I am the person who, I see it like first of all, I know Penelope and Javier very well. Penelope and I just worked on a film, The 355, and I got to spend time with them both, and I think they're both geniuses. And I feel like this sacred sisterhood and brotherhood, whatever, that I have with other people who really open themselves up and are vulnerable in front of strangers. That's a beautiful thing that someone does. And the perfect example of that is I did a Broadway play, a revival of The Heiress. And I was so nervous doing it because there was a renowned production that Cherry Jones was in, and it was phenomenal, like years before. And the whole time I kept thinking, why am I even doing this? Cherry Jones already did the best version of this, and she came. Cherry Jones is the one who plays Rachel, Tammy's mom in the film. And this was probably in 2012. I did this on Broadway. I'd never met her before. She comes backstage and she gives me a big hug. And she hands me a bunch of books, and she said, Julie Harris played Catherine Sloper in The Heiress, and she gave me these books to research, and now I'm giving them to you, and I want to talk to you about like the sisterhood that is between artists. And it was such a beautiful thing. So for me, I don't see it as like a fighting it out. I can't even imagine that one, there's no way you can really calculate a performance. Everyone's open and vulnerable, and I'm very inspired and lifted up by others' generosity.
Sí, teníamos una pregunta ahí en la esquina, ese caballero.
¿Qué tal? Jessica, Gonzalo Hurtado de Perú. Quiero saber, a primera vista, un personaje como el que has interpretado puede ser sujeto de muchos juicios, pero una vez que te has acercado a él, ¿qué reflexión te motiva? Ahora, ¿qué nueva impresión tienes del personaje que has interpretado?
Well, it's interesting because it started from a place of judgment. I mean, I had judgments against this character when I was growing up because all I knew about her is what comedy sketch shows told me. They were making fun of her. They were like laughing at her. Whenever they played her, she was always crying and they were laughing at it and calling her ugly, and she was on the cover of magazines and they were just treating her inhuman. And so that's where I was when I saw the documentary, and then I felt guilty for that judgment because I realized that I had been fed by media that wasn't a true story, and that I felt guilty of judging someone without really knowing them or getting to know them or looking behind the joke. And so that's how it started. And I spent 7 years, and I'm someone who, I look for the dirt under the fingernails in the characters that I'm playing. I mean, a lot of people talk about, I love to play characters with huge flaws that are unlikable, do unlikable things. I love that. I like that complexity, and I'll tell you, I spent more time studying this character than anything else. I watched every single video of hers. I read every book. I met people who knew her. I watched even her on the surreal life, after the religious community had exiled her. The one thing Tammy Faye had was consistency and authenticity. And even when she was thrown out of the church, basically, she never stopped loving people. She never stopped forgiving people. And she was always true to what she preached from the very beginning, that everyone is deserving of God's love and grace. And so for me, I realized as much as I wanted to find as much dirt and, make a cynical view of something, because that's the easy way to play something, I wanted to play the authentic version of her, which then celebrates her love, her compassion, her joy.
Sí, tenemos allí una pregunta, Gabriel. Sí.
Congratulations, you have surprised us again, Jessica. Thank you so much. Tengo una pregunta para Michael. ¿Por qué ha elegido Tamara Faye Baker? ¿Por qué esta historia real ahora? Y para Jessica es muy interesante artísticamente hacer el personaje que existe, como el documental. ¿Cuál es para ti más como poner la carne, el personaje creando que ya existe y la gente tiene mucha información porque era una cantante, era presentadora, etcétera, etcétera? Pues, ¿cuál es para ti más fácil como actriz? ¿Hacer un personaje documental o solamente un personaje que ya está escrito solamente en guión? Muchas gracias.
When we started, when I came onto the film, which was in the spring of 2019, for me, and this is still very much the case, but it felt more intense even then. And you asked why now? For me, the political divisions in our country, which are have so much to do with the Christian right and the evangelical right wing of our country, to have a character that sort of straddles that universe, Tammy Faye Baker, whose history is very much rooted in that, but has such a message of acceptance and love and that we need to understand each other, that we need to embrace each other at a time, especially in our country, where we've never been farther apart, where we've never been more driven by division. It felt like a very important story to tell and we've talked about this, without cynicism, without pointing fingers, without it's us against you or just trying to tell a story about someone who really practiced her beliefs in a way that's very inspirational.
And for me, this other part of your question, it's much more difficult to play someone that, you can watch the film and see me act the Steve Peters interview, and you can immediately go on YouTube and watch Tammy Faye and Steve Peters interview. And you can immediately go on YouTube and watch Tammy Faye sing The Sun Will Shine Again when everything's falling apart. So I guess it's easy in the aspect, if someone says, oh, she's really big, is Jessica overacting? And then you look at the Tammy Faye and you go, wow. I mean, she's really big. But also it means that, someone can check my homework. Someone can put both things side by side and really see if you did the amount of work that you say you did. So that adds the pressure, but also I think I thrive under pressure. I love when someone gives me a challenge. So perhaps it was more fun doing it because there was the fear, and it was also the bigger the risks, I guess, the bigger the feeling you get when you finish something. You go, okay, I think I might have gotten close to that.
Sí, tenemos aquí en la primera fila.
Hi, both of you, congratulations with this amazing movie. I saw it yesterday, and at the end, the audience gave you a huge round of applause, so congratulations. And Jessica, thank you for being a role model and standing up for the women in the industry. And I once read that you're trying not to play it safe as an actress, and that you push yourself to do something that's really difficult. And what was the hardest part of playing Tammy Faye, besides being in makeup for a really, really long time?
Definitely the hardest part was the very first day. It was the very first scene. Everyone's looking at me. There's so much writing on this. Even, I was talking to Fenton and Randy, who directed the documentary, and they said last week, when you first asked us if you could buy the rights, I didn't think you were right for this character. So there was so much of let's see, is Jessica going to be able to do this? And I knew with the crew, everyone, with Mike, with Andrew, so many people were looking. And it was the first time. I sometimes get the shakes before I go on stage for theater, but never on film. I feel very comfortable on a film set. I was so scared before I opened my mouth, before I spoke, showing up with the makeup. And so the only way to really think of getting over it is I just thought I have to embarrass myself so badly that there's nothing else to be afraid of. So the very first day before I started speaking, I said, okay, everyone, I want to lead us all in a prayer. And we all got in a circle. It was so embarrassing. And held hands. And as Tammy Faye, I okay, God, I want to thank you for letting us film today. And I did the whole thing. Because I thought, after you do that, even when the camera's not rolling, it's like, all right, I jumped off the cliff. There's nothing else, in some sense, more humiliating than that. So I kind of just had to fall into it. Thank you.
Tenemos una pregunta en la última fila, si le podemos acercar al caballero un micrófono. Sí.
Peter Verhoet, Interfilm Germany. Oh, hi. There are quite a number of political references in the film. The re-election of Ronald Reagan, Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell. Could you comment on these political references? Because this kind of television evangelicalism was also in a certain political milieu. And what role did it play, and how important was it for you to bring that into the movie? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it plays a huge role. It plays a huge role in our political system. And we've talked about, Jim Baker's theology is this prosperity doctrine, which is this idea that God wants us to be rich, and God wants us to have things, and God wants us, to have material wealth, and that that we are entitled to it. It's not just that he wants it for you, but that you're entitled to it. And so there's a sort of a money-making aspect to it that is sort of evolved over the many decades. And the last president famously was a member. His family went to it wasn't officially a church, but it was a kind of like a church, and the head of that was a man named Norman Vincent Peale, whose his philosophy was all about the power of positive thinking, which is essentially if you want it to be true, it's true. And all of these things kind of blend together. And so if you go and look at it, there's a very, very straight line that connects the evangelical movement in our country with our current political situation. And it's only become more radicalized in the last, I don't know, 10 or so years. And so it couldn't be more important.
Sí, aquí tenemos primera fila.
Hola Jessica, enhorabuena por tu interpretación. ¿Crees que este personaje es el que te ha llevado más al límite, más aún que, por ejemplo, el de Zero Dark Thirty, que creo que fue tu mejor interpretación, por lo menos bajo mis impresiones, vaya? ¿Crees que este te ha llevado aún más a un límite interpretativo más amplio?
It definitely took me most to the limit in terms of technique, because other characters, yes, I've had to learn so much and go to really dark emotional places. But this is a character that, in addition to going to dark emotional places, I had to sing. I had to do an accent. I had to have a higher pitched voice. I had to be silly but not a caricature. I had to preach, in front of huge groups of people and minister. There was so much about her that actually, it reminded me a lot of being in drama school. All of the things, you learn so much in drama school, and then for each job, you use one or two things. It kind of felt like
play her in 5 different decades.
Exactly.
Play the character through 5 different decades.
Exactly, so that it's also like how she changes, during that time. And this is the film that instead of just using 1 or 2 things that they give you in drama school, I had to use everything. So for sure, technically, it's the most difficult thing I've ever done.
Sí, tenemos aquí.
Hola, buenas tardes, Jessica, Michael. Bueno, en primer lugar, enhorabuena por la película. La pregunta va para Jessica. Tammy Faye es un personaje muy complejo, muy lleno de matices y muy extremo, que va rápidamente de la comedia al drama y viceversa, y salta de un punto a otro. La pregunta es ¿cómo encuentras ese equilibrio entre un punto y otro, y para que seas ser capaz de dotar de personalidad a Tammy Faye en pantalla?
Well, I relied very heavily on Mike for that, because, I did as much research as I could, and I would get to places where I felt like, I can follow the script, but then there were also times where Andrew and I could improvise in the character, which is such an incredible place to get to, especially when there's a different voice and, mannerisms, where you just start to feel at a certain point like, I can just play. Mike one day said, we need another moment from Tammy at PTL, so what could she be doing? Okay, let's decorate cupcakes. And then I'm there, and it was like, go. And I was like, okay, I had an explosion. I wish I had smell-o-vision. All of this stuff that I had learned just from watching her, I felt free that I could just be as big as I wanted to. And Mike could kind of calibrate the performance. And then also, I have a lot of love and humanity for her. She was seen as a clown in the media, so it was really important for me to understand what was going on underneath all of her jokes and her humor and her joyfulness. And in a lot of the videos, I found a lot of loneliness. I found her to be an extremely lonely woman who felt a strong desire to connect to others because of that loneliness, and because because of the loneliness she had in her, she could see the loneliness in you. And so it was almost obsessive, her desire to connect and to touch and to make someone feel loved. And perhaps because the exterior being so wild connected to the interior being so strong, that sense of loneliness and pathos, it was able to find a middle ground. But also, I really credit Michael with helping calibrate that.
Gracias. Tenemos que terminar ya porque nuestros invitados tienen una agenda bastante apretada hoy. Solo nos queda agradecerles su presencia en San Sebastián y desearles muchísima suerte con la película aquí en el festival y en su futura carrera comercial. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, everyone.